Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everyone. Miss Natasha here, and I'm happy to see you. I hope you all are doing well. I'm an author, educator, and speaker, and I'm also authentically autistic. Join me in asking the question why you decide to create instead of hate. I have a lovely guest here that I'd like her to please introduce herself and tell us all about who she is.
Hi, everyone. I am Patty DeDurr. I am a children's book author. I also am a neurodivergent advocate. I have ADHD and dysgraphia myself. And my regular full-time job is a physical therapist assistant. So lots of hats I'm wearing, mom hats, wife hats, all those hats.
That's lovely. And that's exactly why I chose you for this interview, because you are doing life. It seems like you're doing life very well, and you have that heart not only for others, but you have that heart for yourself.
That is so, you are so sweet, Miss Natasha, I will say.
Thank you.
Yes.
I decided to wear my strawberry sweet today, you know?
Yeah.
All right, so let's get started. And for this first question, again, it's okay if you delve into your current position and also why you chose to write this book.
Okay.
Okay. Did the industry you're in choose you, or did you choose the industry?
So if we're looking at my children's book author career, I kind of felt it just happened organically. You know, COVID happened, so this all happened kind of in that time frame. It's something I've thought about for a while, writing a children's book. And the first time I started writing this down, it was a completely different story than it is now. It was about poop and animal farm.
Yeah.
Animals. And people were like, this is not very good. So then I sat down, and within just a matter of an hour, I realized I was writing this story about ADHD and hyperfocus without even realizing I was writing this story. So it's kind of, and then, finding the illustrator and getting the editor and formatter and all that, and just kind of like one step after the other, it kind of happened.
I'm so glad, because I resonate with the book so much. And I'm going to say the little kid. It had that kind of a Tigger kind of feel to him.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah,
I never thought about that, but that's yeah.
I just resonated with it. So thank you so much for even answering that call, that little tap that said, hey, I should try this. I'm so glad you did.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. It's because there's not very many stories with the ADHD character that's just about a story. A lot of times it's about the diagnosis. So this is a little bit different than some other stories that may be out there that people are familiar with.
Mm-hmm. And I love the illustrations, colorful.
Oh, yes.
And
you did a nice job.
Yeah, the person really did. And I actually got to take a look at some more items.
By Eduardo?
Yeah, a live that you had done.
Okay, yeah.
And it was so he's really good. Like, you just having to find someone who fit perfectly for this event, this venture. So I loved it. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
To get it though, but it's in my roster of books to purchase.
Yeah, it's on Kindle too, so people have Kindle, they can look at it through that as well.
Oh, I love also that there are many forms of reading that could be done. So I can listen to something over and over again off of a Kindle or off of YouTube, and not have to turn the pages. But if I want to turn the pages, I still can,
Yeah, and there's quite a few people who've done my book on YouTube where they've read it aloud. So it is out there on YouTube too, if people wanted to watch it that way.
Yeah. Alrighty, so let's get to the next question. What made you gravitate to the writing this story?
Well, like I said, it kind of happened organically. And then once I started doing it, realizing there needs to be stories out there like this that help people that are neurodivergent, maybe even if it's not the child that's reading the book, it could be the mom, the dad, the sister, it could be someone else as well. So it's a way for them to kind of be exposed to these different characteristic traits, these different characters that kind of helps destigmatize ADHD and what it's like as well. That's not just being hyperactive. There's multitudes of different things associated with ADHD.
And I like that there's community involved in the book, like the different animals that the kid goes to see. I love that because it's just like I love community and connection, and you brought that also out in the book.
Yeah, it's kind of like body doubling thing. You know, you have that person next to you that's helping you. So along the way, the different farm animals that he visits, kind of like almost a body doubling exposure that he has.
I love that already. Did you go to college and university for your current position? So as an author, and then also as a
physical therapist assistant. Yeah. So as an author, you really don't need any type of degree to be an author. There's children that are very young that are authors that have books on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and other places. So you don't really need a degree for that. But for my physical therapist assistant, I did go back to school the second time because I do have a bachelor's degree. So I went back to school to get my degree to do this current job that I do.
Because you have such I guess I would also like to ask, like, you have such insight in the matter within the book. So is it something that you were doing for like yourself?
The book? In a way, you could think of it like that. When I was writing it, I tried to think of what are some typical things that happen to me on a daily basis. So one aspect, he thinks that he has an object. He thinks that he has like a feather in his hand, and then he misplaces it and can't find it, and then thinks, oh, I'm just going to use this leaf instead. And then at one point kind of forgets what he was doing, and then had an aha moment, remembers, gets kind of anxious at one point and like is biting his ear a little bit when he's meeting the cows and not sure what to do. So there's different aspects like that looked for in the book.
Thank you for that. And also, let's see. In your opinion, what does it take for one to be great?
What does it take for like an individual to be great? Oh my God, that's quite the question. I would say just feeling like empowered within yourself, which can be hard, especially if you're someone who struggled on a daily basis, if you're someone who maybe struggles in your home life or struggles at school or struggles at work. So just being great is having that empowerment. And sometimes it's important to have things like accommodations in place if a child is going through school, and even work. You can get accommodations through, the American with Disabilities Act at work if you need to as well. So being able to advocate for those and speak up for those is something that's really important, and sometimes can be hard. So sometimes you may need to have that dialogue with someone in order to get those things in place.
Yeah. Very thoughtful answer. Thank you. What are you most proud of?
Most proud of? I'm really proud of like this community. I especially think there's a nice community that's on Instagram and Clubhouse of neurodivergent individuals. And it's just, I'm proud to be part of that community. I'm proud to feel that I resonate within that community as well. You don't feel that on all social media platforms, but I definitely think that Clubhouse and Instagram does a really nice job of feeling more connected than some others. So I'm grateful to be part of that. I think that they have inspired me. They've helped me become a better person. And as well as they've been a huge cheerleader in this book and my adventure as well. So it's amazing. So I'm very grateful for that.
That's such a nice answer, because like you still gave it back to others.
I do that. I realize this sometimes, like if I'm meeting someone new And let's say I'm connecting with them, all of a sudden, like there's someone that I think they may connect with as well. So I introduce them and then I let them have a dialogue. And then I'm like, oh, well, I just lost another friend that I may have because I'm always thinking about like, who else can I help?
Yes.
Or what kid can I help, like navigate the school system? Like, what else can I do?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And service is one of my values. Being of service is one of my values. So
I love that.
it's huge because I grew up seeing my grandmother um making food to give to the poor for decades.
I love
Her
that.
two hands fed so many people, so I'm always thinking of how I can be of service, and I'm glad that again you're like-minded in those senses, and that's how it keeps you sane those ways, and you remember how much how much you do have,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Where was your grandma at, or your mom when she was, you
My
said grandma,
grandma,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
she was in downtown Toronto.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like at her church, um, in the outside areas, there,
Okay.
there were loads of people in need, and her best friend just started doing that.
I love
They
that.
would
Yeah.
charge other people who are not like who can afford it, but then
Hmm.
put it right back to buy
Yep.
extra food to make more.
Yep. Yep.
You know, it's just again community and connection, right? And I want to
Yeah.
do that. I hear you. I've heard you so much. I've seen you so much in terms of Instagram. And I said, you know what? I'm going to build a community and connection, even if it's through these these
That
words
works.
and stuff. And what did you say there?
I said that works.
Yeah, like that. So I'm just like figuring all sorts of ways that I can do that. If it's with your book or mine, the point is let's get these messages out there because
Yep.
there's some people that don't know that they're wonderful.
That
And
is true. That's very true.
something like your book or mine could help that. And then that avenue where, wait, there's other people, and you start swimming to shore, you know?
Yep. That's beautiful.
Let me keep going. um, let's see. I asked this question because I too have ADHD, and I need to understand ways to maximize the return on my time. My executive functioning struggles it from, well, I can't say from time to time always, but I always
Right.
like to ask this question, see if I can learn something. So how do you maximize the return on your time?
So, I mean, there's some different hacks that we do in our house, and I posted some of them on Instagram as well. So, I'd say having my kids are older now, so when they're younger, this may not be an option, but now that they're older, really having them have their own chores and tasks that need to be done. And so one of them is doing their bedrooms, like they're in charge of doing that. So I have a chart where I broke down each task that needs to be done. So, and then they flip it up. So I don't have a copy of it here, but like, let's say it says clean under the bed, and they flip that up. And then the next one says like, um, dust the bookshelf. So then they flip up that. So as they go through, they can do that. So that's one hack. Trying to organize as much as I can in the house doesn't mean that everything has its place, because then there's just so many more containers and things that you have in the house. And I don't need even more doom boxes than I have already, because there's so many doom boxes. I should do like an Instagram where I just go through a random doom box that I
Yeah.
find, and like, here's what I found in my doom box. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that's where that is. So you try to figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and that's the best that you can do for managing time and stuff. I definitely have to always use my calendar app for everything and set alarms for everything as well, or I'm just going to forget as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like my only thing, and this is a kind of um kind of bad. Like I didn't have a watch at work because I didn't buy my Fitbit at that time. And I'd have to use my phone because I got very used to using my phone. But a
Okay.
lot of the times when you're at work, you cannot do that. So I'd put it in a fanny pack, right? So I'll have
Okay,
it
yeah,
there,
that works.
kind of buzz every hour so I can like kind of guess. And then if I'm in a quiet space, I will take it out and look. But there were people at work would always say like she's on her phone. And these are other
Oh,
people looking inward. So like the biases and assumptions of others
yep.
deterred me from the workplace. And I decided that I'm going to organize myself and my space and the way in which I function with my own business. Whereas it's difficult because someone like myself needs to have a structured space to work in. So I
Hmm.
know the amount of time that it takes to work and what I have to do. But when you're in a space like that, it's difficult when people don't understand differences. So now, over the last 2 years, I've been trying to function on my own. I have to make my hours. I have to build this notion of
Right.
flipping the flaps and what flaps are going to be what is that going to look like
Yep.
oh my goodness. But I say that to say like it's doable. It's doable, but you just have to structure yourself and your life in the way that you work,
Yep.
regardless of if it's in the workplace or outside of it, or a bit of both. Sometimes I also do contracted work.
Yeah, and sometimes it's important to learn to say no too to certain things, like
Yes.
saying yes all the time. I think we're sometimes people pleasers and we're saying yes to so many things, and it can just become so overwhelming. And then it just there's no downtime to do anything, and yeah, it can be a lot.
So I think like even that thing that you just told me, I can use something like that, but make it my own.
Oh yeah,
Not
that's
just
just yep.
what because I need something like that. Even as an adult, I need it because I've always been structured in my brain for a 9 to 5 or a seven
Yes.
to 11, regardless. So now it's like rewiring that notion of wait, it's me now. No one's telling me. What is that going to look like?
Yeah, well, that's the whole theory too about school. School is just making workers and not making like bosses. It's the whole like funnel system. So that's the whole like 9 to 5 mentality that you have going through school. Like I'm supposed to have this 9 to 5 job, not be an entrepreneur. So
Yeah.
it's hard to get out of that when you've been taught this like mentality of the system, the whole your whole like school life.
And someone with ADHD, autism, on and on and on, I can go on, but all of those things together, I did not fit in said spaces. It was
Hmm.
actually quite difficult to navigate and maneuver, but I just mimicked, and that's why I ask a lot. I ask low people, can you stop now? Get out of here. Stop. you know? And I just had to learn, I just learned how to do life and as best as I could, but I learned the most in
Hmm.
the last 10 years. So funny. It's just I learned the most in the last 10 years. And I'm glad I learned it now as opposed to never. But like loving yourself first and
Yep.
understanding how you work first is important. Yeah, right. And
Yep.
I'm using my voice with CreateDon'tHate as a way in which to not only do that for myself, but also talk with people like you.
Yeah, and sometimes it can be hard to love yourself first, especially if we have this voice in our head, of this rejective sensitive dysphoria, and like you
Yeah,
just think like nobody likes you, you're not doing well. Like, I
yeah,
put my book out there and if I get a bad review, I'm like, oh, nobody likes this book. This is horrible. So yeah.
yeah. But I'm so glad, like even in the space where I met you was a book promotional club,
Hmm.
and then all the other rooms, it just seemed like you're just you. There's no like I hope you don't take offense to this, but I say no, there's no frills. Like I call those frills the bad parts of people.
Okay, yeah.
And then
Yeah, I
they
have no frills. There's no frills with
right,
me.
right, and they only show it later, and it's like no, the way in which you described the book, the way in which you assist others with your own lived knowledge, is not coming from a bad place. It's coming from a nice, helpful, honest place. So I thank you.
Well, thank you. That's what I'm going for. So I'm glad it's coming across that way.
Really. And sometimes we don't hear that. So I always like to make a point to tell people what I've gathered from what they've done. So they also can get that feedback and continue or stop whatever it is that they feel they need to do. So
Well, thank you.
alrighty. How do you embrace failure?
Oh, geez. Um, let's say I'm doing something and it's just not going how I want it to go, or it's something that maybe just isn't what I was expecting. I try to be good at pivoting and try to be good at figuring out a different way. Even when I got like the illustrations back from the individual who did it, and sometimes the text wouldn't fit correctly where it was supposed to go, and I had to just rework it and try to make it work, or try to like have the illustration change a little bit. So I just try to pivot the best I can to try to find a different solution to whatever may be causing the problem, or causing the failure that I had. So just, it's hard to do sometimes, and it's not something that's done automatically, and it's not something that may be done that same day or even that same week, but the hope is that it eventually is something that will be done.
Yes. Thank you for that. Because it makes like that's what like I've listened to other people so much that I forgot that that's what I do. like like actually. So when I remembered, and after some long retro introspection, I realized that's what I do. And that's okay. That's how it got me through all the years and all the things I didn't know. It's because
Mhm.
it's pivoting. I didn't know the
Yep.
word. I didn't know the word. I just knew that's what I did. Yeah.
Well, I use pivoting a lot in my therapy world. I put it in notes all the time because we do this thing called stand, pivot, transfer. So yeah, so it's a way to, you stand up, you pivot, and you transfer.
Mm.
Mm.
Wow.
That's kind of what we do too in our life. We stand up from whatever the failure that we had, we pivot, and then we transfer to something new.
I love that. It is, that's so nice. Yeah, like that got me. Yeah, for real. Well, that was lovely. And that's why I ask the people that I speak with, just talk about what every and anything, because look at how what you just said resonated with me, even though it's in a field I really know nothing about, but I very much respect. And that was like, I could use that in my own personal everyday goings on.
I know, I just came up with that right now.
That's pretty good. Like, wow. Okay, let's see if I have one more for you here. All right, so I have one more. Is this where you thought you'd end up?
Oh my goodness. No, if I look back at my childhood and what I thought, I always thought I was going to be a veterinarian. And then as you get further in life, you realize, well, that's a whole lot of school. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. And so I kind of always pictured myself as a social worker. But then, I looking more into that as I got older, I realized, well, that's a lot of schooling. And social workers are not well respected as far as pay goes. And they're not given the responsibility that they could. There's that whole thing of there should be social workers on police forces. There should be social workers on police forces. So that's definitely an avenue I always thought that I would be at. And I think that what I do with my current career, for where I work in geriatrics as a physical therapist assistant, I think there is some similarities that we have where we work with people, make the communication with people, and try to almost as a case manager on individuals in their care plan of where they may be going next, what our ultimate goals are and all of that. So there are some similarities to that.
And you know what? I just thought of also mindset. When I cracked my typical plateau, and like I love walking. And I just like, well, I'm not gonna be able to do anything like that, you know? But the physical therapist did help me understand that this will pass.
Yeah.
Help me through that journey. I really did appreciate them.
Yeah, because sometimes we just have to focus. People are starting to become deflated through their therapy, or they just feel like they can't see the end of the rainbow. And we have to say, like, think about where you were just like even a week ago to where you are now. And I know it may not seem like much, but it is a big difference in what is happening. Yeah.
Huge. I really respect that. I started learning about like the foot and the bones and how that like how it works, because I want to know from how I'm like the person, like I don't know if you ever watched Dirty Jobs.
Oh yeah, I've watched it
Like,
before.
I want to know all the intricate places and parts people work and what they do, you know? Like I'm just that person. Like I'm so curious. I guess I'm just curious, George, you know? And you know what? Before I say my spiel, I do have a question that I just came up with. What other books, if any, are you going to do next?
So right now, the illustrator is finishing up a second book that will feature a main character with dysgraphia. So it's going to be this same book characters in the first book will be in the second book. So it's going to be a llama. So the llama from the first book will be the one that has dysgraphia. And so it's just going to be a little journey with that. And then I'm working on a chapter book right now as well, but that's a longer process because I'm going to go a different route with publishing that than I have with the picture book. So that's going to be more like maybe a year or two or more in the future.
Yeah. Well, I'm like in love with the first already, so I'm sure gonna love all the rest. That's why all right, I'm gonna get to my closing spiel. All right. Create Don't Hate was born out of frustration. The frustration of individuals hating on people like me with differences. We started a movement of hope, courage, and love to build community and connection in the process. Create Don't Hate is a real practical way of giving hope to those who have been muted and shut down because of just being who they are. Create Don't Hate is an anthem I would play to get through the tough times. And I really, really, really appreciate this interview. A year, 2 years ago, I had a brace on, wobbling all over the place, and seeing the story made me smile and made me feel warm inside, and I really appreciate it. So I'd love to know if you have anything else to say, and also if you could tell everyone how they can reach you.
Well, I just thank you so much for having me on here. I think you're an amazing host, and I appreciate what you're doing so much for the community as well. On social media, my name is Sensing Greatness. And like I said, Instagram is where I'm mainly at, but I also have a Facebook page and TikTok as well, and Pinterest. But Instagram is where you'll find me mainly. And on my website, I have school accommodations lists that I've created and a lot of executive function resources as well, all free.
Thank you so much. And I hope that you all took away as much as I did. And I thank you for joining.
Thank you.